Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Happy Hour Podcast pre-game episode. Of course, this is Ray. I'm sitting here with Socrates. His blind ass can't see the light, so yeah, he's going to be on the other side. Matt's going to be here soon. We're just kind of generally talking in general.
I'm on the other side, and I will not come through that screen and hit you with a fucking CTA because I will.
But no, I mean, like back to what we were talking about. Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, originally it was kind of, rough getting hooked up with, Crack the Sky in general, but it is what it is. So, right. Dave reached out to us. He's like,
we could get West Scantlin, but we couldn't get Crack the Sky.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what I thought. I was like, I don't want to kind of sound like a big league like that, but the whole thing is it just made no sense to me at all.
Right.
Like why it was like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And it was just more so miscommunication type stuff. And then the agent just never got back to me. And I'm like, well, what the fuck's up? Like,
it's like, are you guys busy? I'm pretty sure you're not on tour right now.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like,
well, didn't Amity say the same thing? The press agent said they aren't doing interviews right now or something?
Yeah. I mean,
are you guys busy? What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. It's like, what's happening
in Australia?
Right now?
Wrestling kangaroos? What the fuck?
So, but I have no idea.
The press agent said they aren't doing interviews right now or something.
Yeah, I'm just testing the audio.
Are you guys busy? What the fuck are you doing?
It's like what's happening
in Australia?
Right
Wrestling kangaroos?
Wrestling kangaroos?
Or whatever they do over there.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, it's just I don't know what the fuck's up with people. Like, us, it's like we're trying to put on like a legit show. Have you heard anything more from Buddha?
I have not.
You have not? Oh, the Buddha saga is pretty much over.
We're saying it's over, but as Vince McMahon would say, anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation.
Oh, dude, what about the butchering of Peacock?
Oh, dude.
Oh my God.
Well, actually,
dude.
I signed up for it, and I mean, I haven't actually watched anything yet, but from what I've heard,
they are butchering.
They said you can't pause, you can't fucking go back.
Well, you know what?
They better fix this shit before Mania, or people are going to be pissed.
Dude, I heard that they're taking all the offensive stuff out.
Really?
Like all the Stone Cold middle fingers, all the ECW, like the risque stuff, like all that shit they're taking out.
Maybe NBC doesn't want them to have it.
Yeah. Wow. And that's the thing. And I look at it like this. Well, you know what? You want to sit there for the last 2 years and bitch and cry and bitch and cry about WWE and their product. Yep. Well, guess what? Now you can't even relive the Attitude Era because they resold it to They sold it to Peacock, and Peacock's going to butcher it. So it's just kind of like, cry now. Here you go. The thing that you loved, fuck it. We're going to, I think ultimately the sale of WWE is going to be imminent anyways. Well, it's
definitely, I think once Vince goes, it's going to get sold.
Oh yeah, no doubt at all.
But I don't know. It's like Cornette was actually talking about this on his podcast.
Yeah,
Peacock is $5 a month, right?
Oh yeah,
it's actually like $250 if you get the discount.
Yeah,
and it used to be like WrestleMania, right? You had to pay for WrestleMania because it's the big show.
Yeah,
like I don't know if it's just me.
You're paying $2.50 for WrestleMania.
I don't know how you feel, but it's like it just doesn't feel like it used to.
Yeah. It's just it's weird.
And here's the other thing: how's this going to work for the guys, for the workers? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, like are they going to get a cut of this? $250 a month? Like
like I mean that's the thing.
Pay-per-view bonuses are gone.
Normally pay-per-view bonuses are based off the gate though.
Right. Yeah.
So, but
they haven't been getting those because there were no crowds.
Yeah. But this one does have a crowd. So, but you gotta.
Well, they're doing.
Look at the balance here and there.
Like 20,000 or something. It's not a full crowd.
Yeah. I think it's still something.
Yeah, it's better than what they've had.
Yeah, it's going to be better than what that Baltimore Celeb. Have you heard about that? The Baltimore Celeb Fest show?
No.
Oh man, dude, that's in May.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that owns IPO Sports Marketing, he tried to get hooked up with us, for the show. He had like Buff Bagwell, he had Ronnie Garvin, he did autograph sessions. He wanted to cross promote. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Can you get me in touch with Buff Bagwell? Like, he's like, well, you can come down and do like a 15-minute interview with Buff Bagwell. I'm like, 15 minutes doesn't do shit for my show.
Right.
Like, premise of my show is playing the games with them, talking to them, like doing an hour, like you're doing an hour. And I was like, is there any way you can have him do the podcast to promote the appearance? And he was just giving me flack. And I was like, you know what? I'm pulling away from this. So now him and a bunch of other people are doing like this convention at Benfield Sports Center. It has like Kevin Nash, Mark Henry, James Ellsworth, Brian Hardy. It's like Jesus Christ. But they have all these big names. Like here, let me pull it up on my phone. This is how ridiculous this is. And for everybody watching on our Patreon, this is how ridiculous. And mind you, they're doing this. They are doing this in May. They're doing this in May during COVID.
Mm.
So, and it's from 11 to 3.
Hmm.
So 11 to 3. So they're going to lose their ass. Like, I mean, the
Yeah, 'cause they're not
autograph
gonna be able to have a full capacity crowd.
for an autograph session and a photo with Kevin Nash is $70.
But
Where
here's
in
the
the
question.
fuck do
70
you think
God
people
damn, 70
are going to have the money for that? So
So
it has,
here's the question, right?
Yeah.
Will the line for Kevin Nash be as long as it was in the Kobe Pro
I don't
locker
know,
room?
dude, that was crazy. We felt so, because we just wanted to get a photo with him.
Right.
We felt so bad for that guy, but no, here's
Well, I
the-
was in the parking lot doing coke because Cody pissed me off. but-
here's the lineup. It's Kevin Nash, the Beautiful People, which that kind of sold me because I fucking love Velvet Sky.
Velvet, yeah.
And Velvet gives, Velvet gave all the fat guys in the world hope because she's with Bubba
She's
Ray
with Bubba,
Dudley.
that's right.
Like, I would have never thought
She's
that.
still
So,
hot for her age too.
yeah, that Deanna Perzuzo or whatever her name is, Tatanka,
Oh shit.
James Storm, Brian Clark, who was Adam Bomb,
Right.
the Rock and Roll Express,
Oh nice.
the Sandman,
No shit.
Rare-
The man who's still ducking me
yeah,
after
yeah,
12
yeah,
years.
the rare appearance of Desiree Peterson, whoever that is.
Who?
Yeah. She was a WWF 80s legend, and she was WWF Women's Tag Team Champion.
That's right.
Demolition, Tito
Oh,
Santana,
shit, Demolition. Fuck.
Enzo, Big Cass, Kiera Hogan, Diamante, Lance Archer, Brian Cage.
Diamante, the chick that did a song with Bad Wolves?
No, it's somebody that's in that's in
Different
AEW.
Diamante.
Wildfire, Tommy Rich. Now, mind you, this is only halfway through. Virgil, get this.
Oh,
Virgil.
Virgil's got to be at
Virgil is
every
going to,
convention. That's a rule. He has
yes.
to be at
Virgil is
every
going to be there. Saf, have you seen Tiger King?
No, I've heard of
It's
it.
it's one of the handlers that got his arm bit off by a
Okay.
tiger. They're going to
Why
have
is he
him
at a
there.
wrestling convention?
I don't know. Amber Nova, whoever that is, Bill Alfonso,
Oh,
JJ
Fonzie.
Dillon,
Nice.
the Toxic Turtles. That popped me. The Toxic Turtles. It
Who
was
the
when
fuck are the Toxic Turtles?
Gilbert and
Oh,
Gilbert
yeah.
and Barry Hardy dressed up like
Right.
Ninja Turtles,
Right,
and they did
yes.
it one time, and they came out, and I'm like, what the fuck? The guy who plays the Iron Sheik on Young Rock, Greg the Hammer Valentine,
Wow.
James Ellsworth,
Oh,
James
I'm sold.
Ellsworth,
I'm going now.
Gilbert,
Oh, man.
Randy Hogan. If you remember, he's the one who looks like Hulk Hogan or whatever, and all.
Okay.
Like the Baltimore Blondes, Brian Hardy and his partner.
Oh,
Because
shit.
Brian Hardy he hasn't been relevant in like 10 fucking some years. And
Wait, he was relevant in something?
Yeah. He also looks like a fat honky tonk man.
No, he looks like a fat Elvis. I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
I call him Fat Honky because I mean he is white, but also he looks like honky tonk
does,
man. So he's
yeah.
Fat Honky.
So wait a minute, we got Ellsworth and Brian Hardy at the same convention.
Yes.
I'm sold.
And
I'm going.
Mark Henry.
Nice.
So
That's a lot of fucking
now
names.
30 people.
God damn.
So mind you, 30 people, 3 or 4 hours
Mm.
in the middle of COVID. How are you going to section that out? And then it's like 10 or $15 admission.
Yep.
The workers already got paid.
Oh yeah.
So those prices are
what, $70?
yeah.
God
So
damn.
so that's the thing. That's them trying to get their money back.
Yeah.
I'm not paying $70 to meet Nash.
No.
Fuck that shit.
I've talked
Like
to him.
that-
I've met him for
yeah,
free.
Yeah, that ain't happening. They're gonna lose their
Oh,
ass
absolutely.
something fierce. Like, and I sit there and I look at that. I'm like, you know what?
Is
Paul
Heyman booking this?
We probably would have been on that flyer because we probably would have been involved with that.
Yeah.
And as soon as I would have saw Brian Hardy's involvement with it, or nothing against him, James Ellsworth, just knowing what happened with him or whatever and all that, I'd be like, I don't want to do this.
Mm.
That's exactly, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. And that's why I kind of pulled back because I was like, this dude's kind of jerking my chain anyways, so fuck it. But, I feel
Well, I
like
guess
that
we're not
it's not just one guy. It's like a bunch of, vendors getting together that are doing this.
It sounds like some sports conglomerate.
Yeah,
or something
it's like,
that.
but here's the thing. There's going to be a bunch of people that are going to lose a bunch of money in May.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you there's not going to be another one.
No.
Yeah, and if it is, it's probably going to be a lot smaller.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a good idea, quite frankly. I
Well,
really don't.
I guess
Like,
we're not booked because we're not as big of a star as Brian Hardy.
yeah.
You know?
But dude, that's a character too. So for anybody, and I don't care. I'll name drop him. Of course, this is our Patreon exclusive. Brian Hardy is like a cancer in the
Really?
wrestling business.
Oh, you don't like Mr.
Yeah,
Hardy?
he really is. Brian Hardy, for those of you,
Honestly,
if
I have
anybody's
nothing-
watching this on
Honestly,
Patreon,
I have nothing
Brian
against him.
Hardy is Jobber Barry Hardy's son.
Mm.
And he thinks, put it this way, he did one event, one show on WWE, and he got on the mic.
He did too,
And
honestly. He did too.
whatever, two.
Yeah.
But he never got to the level where James Ellsworth was.
Oh, no.
Never. And the thing is he would promote himself on flyers
Mm.
as WWE superstar, or as seen on WWE Raw,
God.
Brian Hardy. And you're just kind of like, are you fucking serious? Like, dude, you did one fucking squash match on fucking Raw. Like, no one knows who the fuck you are. And I guarantee you he would promote himself as that now. And it's like, dude, that was at least 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, longer
like,
than that.
let it the fuck go.
Yeah.
Like,
at least Ellsworth was over.
And yeah, me
he
and
had the top selling t-shirt on WWE.com.
Yeah, me and Cloud were joking around that we were like, what we should fucking do is that we should sit there and be like, okay, well, now we're gonna do conventions. Like Cloud was like, he's like, I did something that was a lot bigger than Brian Hardy. He was the sign on a Kevin Owens show when they did the friendship thing for Chris Jericho. That was Cloud. I told Cloud, I'm like, it's perfect. I was like, I'll be your agent. I'll get
as seen on WTV, the sign.
Yeah. And I was like, we could do like watercolor paint that like something that looks like an 8-year-old did, and we'll charge like $50 a piece, and I get 45% of the profits, and I only make $1.50 out of the whole thing.
Like, I'll say one thing about Brian Hardy though. You said you're not a fan of his.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be in a match with him. It was going to be a 4-way ladder match for the NWO Cruiserweight title.
That just on paper sounds like money.
It was supposed to be me, Hardy, Marcus Streets, and Izzy Stone.
Yeah.
Hardy wound up not showing up because I guess he was a big star. He had better things to do.
Yeah.
So TJ Sykes got substituted into the match.
Oh yeah. So you got a better replacement.
The match turned out a lot fucking better.
Yeah. You got a better
one of the best matches I ever had.
Yeah. So you got a much better replacement.
But Hardy, here's the thing about Hardy. I got nothing against the guy personally.
Yeah.
But if he's claiming to be a WWE superstar, I got 2 words for you.
Yeah.
Cognitive dissonance.
Oh, dude. Like cognitive impairment. Like, it's like, who in the fuck, does this guy, think he is or whatever? Like, it's like
technically what we could do, since we've gone to WWE shows as a fan, as seen on WWE TV, right?
Oh, yeah.
Chase Alex and Socrates in the crowd.
Like, what the fuck? Like,
it'll be like, remember that show back in the day when Morgus was at the Raw taping, and
he was shaking
the belt.
He would have the MEWF belt, and he was just shaking in the air in the front row, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? Like, but. I mean, that's just that's the whole fucking thing right there. It's like, what the fuck, man?
Honestly though, I'm tempted to go to that convention now just to see what the fuck it's going to be like.
You're not going to see much because you're blind, but you can see the train wreck it's going to become.
I can see fine just because you got me in this bright ass room. I got to put my glasses on.
Well, I'm sorry that I have yellow walls and your sensitive ass eyes can't fucking handle it. Like, that's gonna look real great. Let's just do the podcast in complete darkness because Socrates has sensitive eyes. Like, Jesus.
My eyes are perfect compared to my fucking neck.
Oh, dude, everything's messed up. Like,
well, I'm literally crippled with arthritis, but because I'm the high priest of hardcore, I just keep going. You can't stop me. You can't stop me.
All right, so where the hell is the cooler? I'm gonna move this over here. Matt should be popping in soon. I told him just to come in when he gets here. So I'll go ahead.
Goatee won't because he's too busy.
Well, he said he was like, well, if anything, I can come in like 15 minutes late on Zoom, and I love him to death. But it's like, Mike, if you come in via Zoom, you need to filter out the noise because when I go back to edit that shit, it's fucking loud as fuck. Like,
he's got like 3 kids, so it's gonna be noisy.
But no, dude, I gotta play. Everybody, if you're watching on the Patreon exclusive, we have a video that we just loaded. It was through Cameo of Jim Cornette. It was Mike's birthday, so we all put in money and got Mike a cameo from Jim Cornette. And fucking Mike Walters puts like Mike's stuff on blast, and fucking Cornette just rips him the fucking shreds.
I'm excited to hear this,
and it's great. Like, Mike loved it so much, but it's just great. And I'm like, oh, like this is amazing. So yeah, so if you're watching this on our Patreon exclusive, definitely check that out. That is also on our Patreon.
Well, we should go to Cameo.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure somebody would pay to have me cut a promo.
Yeah. $15 for Socrates.
Right.
That's the thing. Could you imagine? Imagine that on Cameo. Guys from the Happy Hour podcast. Like, people probably be like, who in the fuck are these guys?
We should do that. I guarantee you we'll get at least like 2 buys.
We should do a Cameo, but we should also do an OnlyFans.
Oh god.
But, yeah.
I'll get naked.
But that's
who hasn't seen my dick already?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's Jessica Jane can say she saw it because But here's the thing. It's like, with the OnlyFans, it's just kind of like the kind of thing, like, we sit there and we fill up a bathtub filled with potato chips, and like you never see our privates, but it's like just us like with no clothes on, laying in like the thing of potato chips, and all that. And what I'm going to do, I'm
You know
going to
what
go
you
ahead
do?
and admit Dave. So Dave's going to go ahead and come on through.
We should get on Cameo. You should buy a Cameo
Yeah.
for Butch Hess from me.
That'd be great.
Because
That'd be great.
I might have a thing or two to say. You never
Yeah.
know.
Hey,
Hey Dave, how are you? I'm Ray.
Hey, Ray.
On the screen. This is one of my other. He's subbing for one of my other guys. This is Socrates. He can't see as well. The bright light messes with him, so he's going to be on the other side because the light back here messes with his eyes. My other co-host Matt will be here soon. We're just kind of on our pre-show, just kind of chatting around, and we're talking about Cameo and OnlyFans, because what we did is we bought a Cameo for our one co-host Mike from wrestling legend Jim Cornette. And Jim Cornette just ripped him to shreds. And we're just sitting there and we're like, you know what? We're like, we're pretty much nobodies. We should just start a Cameo. Just random. Just it's there. Like you see this $500 Cameo from Sting. And then you just see guys from the Happy Hour podcast, $12. And you're just like, what the fuck is this shit?
Most wrestlers on Cameo are like pretty reasonable.
Oh,
They
yeah,
charge
yeah.
You know what MJF charges?
What?
He stays in gimmick. He
Yeah.
charges $500.
Nice,
Which
nice,
is great because he's such a heel. And he probably sells a lot of them too.
Oh, I'm
considering,
sure.
he's
I'm
one
sure.
today.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And so Dave, have you guys ever fiddled around with Cameo or anything like that? Like, have you guys done anything like that?
we did something like that. It was a year or so ago, or 2 years ago. Our old record label did this thing with what was the name of that organization? Oh, I can't. They ended up screwing over Queensryche, and they screwed over us. They screwed over a whole bunch of people. I can't remember what they were called, but it was this thing where you buy these fan experiences, and they could be anything as simple as the CD and the download, or an hour FaceTime session with John Palumbo and autographed whatever. Can't remember what it was, but you basically paid them and they paid us. Well, they ran out of money. They misappropriated the funds. Queensryche sued them. Our label sued them. All this stuff went on. But anyway, so we did do that. And yeah, it was interesting. I like the Cameo. I think the Cameo thing's better because it's for anybody. Really anybody can do that.
And especially knowing the world that we live in. And of course, everybody, Matt's here. So Matt, say hello to Dave. Dave, this is Matt. Of course, we're on our
Hey, what's up, man?
our pre-game show, which we always do every week for our Patreon exclusive.
And
here's
just
a brew for
burying
you.
Brian Hardy.
Yeah. And we're talking about stuff like Cameo, because I don't know if I told you, but for old man Mike, you know how he always feuds with Mike Walters. He pretty much bought him a Cameo from Jim Cornette, and Jim Cornette just like drug him through the mud for like 3 minutes straight, and it was brutal, but it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Jesus. And then like we were talking also in I'm not sure if Dave knows much about it, but I know a lot of the adult film stars that we've had on, they have OnlyFans, and I'm like, this thing has came out of nowhere. OnlyFans has literally came out of nowhere.
OnlyFans is the number one career choice now for women 18 to 25.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like there's a teacher that did you hear about the teacher recently? There was a teacher, her and her husband started doing an OnlyFans, and she's a teacher, and they basically expelled their son.
Oh, wow.
He went to like some sort of like Catholic school or whatever, and they came across about it. Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? These teachers probably just jealous, and they weren't having sex or anything. She was just putting up provocative photos, and she said that her her money doubled. Like she was making like, I think it was like 15 grand a month or something like that, just off of OnlyFans.
Well, the top girls on there, some of them make like 100 grand a fucking month.
Yeah.
What is OnlyFans? I don't know.
OnlyFans pretty much it's a platform where you can go on, and it doesn't even need to be nude or anything like that. You just go on. It's kind of like a Patreon, but it's more of a risque Patreon. Like let's say if it's a model, they can go on and they'll post like exclusive sexy photos, that aren't being put on Facebook or, anywhere else, or like adult film stars will use it to do like exclusive content on that. And like, we've heard a lot about it lately, and even, 98 Rock, they talk about it a lot too. And, it's just crazy how much that platform has blown up. Like literally, like, there's women that, I just see on Facebook that, have been on my friends list forever. And they're like, yeah, I've been OnlyFans now. And I'm like,
it's
what
like
the
Zoom.
fuck?
Zoom came out. I think it's like the whole COVID thing.
Yeah, everything's blowing up due to COVID, and that's what we were saying with Cameo. Like Cameo, COVID I think helped Cameo more than anything else, because it's like, one, it'd be cool to meet this person, in real life, but a lot of times it's kind of hard. Like if there's someone, like for example, Doug Bradley, who was Pinhead, who we had on our show not too long ago, he lives in the UK. So if you want to meet Doug Bradley, you either need to go to a convention, which right now that's out at, or you can just do a cameo and he'll record whatever you want, say it to whoever, like, hey, happy birthday, happy anniversary, whatever to, whoever. And, it's an awesome platform to see. So,
Franz, the singer from the band Attila, I was listening to an interview with him recently.
Yeah.
And they were asking him how he was making money. They can't tour right now, obviously.
Yeah.
And he actually has an OnlyFans where he fucks porn stars. He's like, I make more money off of that than I make from porn. Like, that's tremendous.
And Dave, also, I appreciate that you put out the little disclaimer to your fans. You're like, yes, it's a not safe for work type thing, blah, blah, and there's been a few guests where they were like, can you kind of make it like a little bit PG-13? Because we have a lot of like older fans. I think who was it? It was Tawny McClure.
Yeah.
Tawny McClure. She was like, can you, and we were like, yeah. We're like, we're still going to cuss and,
That
play our
episode, you
game.
must not have had that dirty dog segment to you.
But you know what though, like that episode did very well though, even though we toned it down. So it's very up and down. But no, Dave, we appreciate you. You reached out to me not too long ago. We know we went through a little bit of up and down stuff with getting the whole band on, but stuff happens. But no, I appreciate you reaching out. You have the Dave DeMarco band. We looked at a couple of things, and you're in Crack the Sky. You did Petticoat. You're at Petticoat Junction. You
Right.
helped out with that, which is who's a local guy. Several Species.
Right.
Pink Floyd Experience. That's
Really,
crazy.
really
Like
good,
I once I saw Several Species, I'm like, fuck, he's been in Several Species.
Oh,
And
wow.
of course you have the Dave DeMarco band itself. So
Right.
all of that just right there is just completely insane to me. And I don't want to get into too much because once we go live on Facebook, we'll dive into a lot of that kind of stuff. This is just us, just kind of bullshitting, giving people a little bit of extra stuff on the Patreon, until we actually go live. And then, once we go live, a lot of times we talk about more. Like last week we were talking
for this
yeah,
content.
like last week we were talking about what more in depth. You weren't here, but Socrates was talking about the crackhead Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, Craig,
He met
Crackhead
at
Eddie Guerrero.
I was talking about that.
yeah.
Jerking off to Katie Groves after she died.
Yeah.
Real family friendly
About
stuff.
that. Yeah. Like we're not family friendly, but we can go even more not family friendly on the Patreon. So
I'm a very PG-13 kind of guy.
yeah. So speaking of which, Dave, before we go live, is there any stories that you can share with us that probably won't be airable that we could probably put on the Patreon that you wouldn't mind talking about?
Wouldn't be airable. You mean stuff that's kind of salacious?
Yeah.
God, I'm not. Man, I'm pretty boring, man. I don't have the. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a divorced dad. I've got a 7-year-old daughter. I'm a full-time musician.
Yeah.
There's no room in my life for screwing around,
Yeah.
fucking around, doing anything that could get my ass in trouble. There's just no room for it. So
You know what that reminds me of? When we had the Happy Hour TV show,
Yeah.
it was just me and Lunar. We interviewed the singer from 10 years at Ramsey.
Yeah.
So we got there early. We go into his dressing room, and he's sitting there drinking a bottle of water and eating a salad. And he looks at us and he's like, I'm sorry for ruining your image of a rock star.
yeah, I mean, look, here we go. Here's my water. I mean,
Actually, speaking of which, I wanted to ask you, what's some of the stuff you have on your wall? I see you have various things. Like I see you have a Crack the Sky poster. You have it looks like it says Strictly Something on the background with somebody wearing sunglasses. What's all the memorabilia you have on the wall?
Okay. Yeah, it's backwards, right? This is it's a poster for a Frank Zappa album called Strictly Commercial. I've got a bunch of laminates I collect laminates from band shows that I've done. So Crack the Sky, we have a great graphic artist who does these beautiful laminates. I'm not sure what you can see in the picture. So yeah, that's the first time that Crack the Sky and DDB and the Ravens played at Pier 6, which was 5 or 6 years ago. The promoter had these really nice posters made, and he gave me one of I don't know, it's plaque or whatever you call it over there. The thing below it is some fan photography, this beautiful shot that this person did, and someone else had it mounted and framed. This one, I love this one. This is see it here. So we played this place up in Pittsburgh called Jurgles,
Oh, nice.
and I'm a huge Zappa fan.
Yeah.
Dweezil Zappa played there. I guess it was either the night before or the night after us. And I just thought, and he was doing the Hot Rats album, and I just thought, how cool is it that
Yeah.
I can be
They're on
on a
the same
poster with you know
Yeah.
with Dweezil, because Crack the Sky and Zappa played together back in the 70s. Well, obviously, well before I was in the band.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like collecting the memorabilia of real special shows that I've done, and I've got so much more that I don't have the wall space for. But yeah, it's this is like, you can't really see it because everything's kind of here in front of me, but this is my studio where I do the recording. So all the Crack the Sky albums since I've been in the band, we all do, a lot of the album is done remotely where we're not all in the same studio doing our parts. So we're doing a new album right now, which is an acoustic album. And the album will probably be out around the summertime. And so the guys do their parts at their own studios, and then it gets sent to me. I put bass on it, and then it gets sent for mixing and mastering and all that. But there's never really any more than 2 or 3 of us in the studio at the same time, but I'm never there. Of the 6 or 7 albums I've done with the band, I've always done them from my home studio.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty neat.
What's the guitar that's behind you? That's a cool ass guitar.
The brown one. Yeah, that's
your left, I believe.
Yeah, that's an acoustic bass, and that's the one I'm using for the new Crack the Sky album. And so it's the first one that we've ever done that's literally all acoustic. So I'm not playing any electric basses on it whatsoever.
Nice.
So yeah. So but yeah, there's stuff here that you can't see. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of keyboards, and then all the gear is here, and then there's a whole array of amps and stuff over here. And so yeah, this is where I am, like, all day long, literally. This is where I do my lessons, because I do all of my lessons online using Skype and FaceTime. So I'm here for that. I did a Zoom session a while ago with some folks from the UK. I mean, I'm literally just here all the time.
Oh, that's all. Actually, a big majority of our fan base, at least in the last, what would you say, 5 months? 5 months has been a majority of the UK.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know if it's because of the
somehow.
COVID protocols in UK or what, but UK like has just beaten America, not too long ago
The High Priest
in
is over in
listenership.
Ireland,
So, it's cool because I've actually had a few of the guests go, hey, we had people reach out to us that are over in the UK saying, hey, we heard you on the Happy Hour podcast. And I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool. If I have like a local ghost hunter or something on, they'll be like, hey, now there's people from the UK inquiring about us. So that's pretty cool.
The guy who makes the wrestling figures is from the UK.
Yeah. We had a guy, one who makes wrestling figures from the UK. Also, our guy Ryan, who does all of our graphic work. You saw the graphic that we were sharing around.
Yes.
He does all of our graphic work. He's very much into bases. He has all kinds of different. And I told him, I was like, hey, where that he found like the older image, put that on there, and and he's
nice.
oh man, he's like, that's badass. He loves it whenever we have the musicians on, because he plays bass himself, and so
Oh wow.
wanted to shout him out because he does so much for us. It's crazy. Like, I'll sit there and be like, hey, we're having this person on, just go ahead, blah, 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 do the graphic, or whatever logo he wants to do. And he'll just boom, right over to us. And, so I'm pretty sure if he saw that, he'd probably get a kick out of it. I'll show it to him.
Oh, cool.
once we're
Right
done.
on.
So, but yeah, so I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I understand what you say with the memorabilia stuff, because myself and of course Socrates, we did pro wrestling for 22 years. So, I have all kinds of stuff from when I was in PWI magazine, flyers from when I wrestled Jake the Snake Roberts, stuff from when I wrestled a couple current run WWE guys that are in WWE now before they were there. So just holding on to that stuff is crazy. Like, it's all packed away. I have no idea where most of it is. Like, over time, I kind of took a lot of it down, but it's one of those things I can't look at it because I want to wrestle every day, but I know, physically I probably shouldn't anymore.
I still got my posters on the wall because I'm a mark for myself.
Yeah. But it's fun memories to have.
It is.
I tell people every day that pretty much this podcast, my wife, everything is because of my decision to becoming a pro wrestler. All the friends, everything I have today, has linked from me, making the decision to wrestle. So, and I'm pretty sure some people with the music industry are probably like, hey, if I would have never became a musician, I have no idea where I would be or what I would be doing or where I'd be living, or, it's crazy when people look at it on that spectrum.
It is. It is. Yeah. There was never really a choice for me. It was music since the age of 5 years old. That's when I announced to the world I'm going to be a musician. And when I say the world, I mean my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. That was announcing it to the world. And luckily, I've been able to make it happen.
Yeah.
I always liked James Hetfield's answer when they asked him where he would be if he wasn't a musician. He said, "I'd probably be dead."
And now with you said you have kids. Have they ever came down in the studio and just started tearing it up?
Yeah, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she actually plays. Because when you live in a house that's a music store, you're going to pick up something and start playing. So I actually bought her a bass, which is a fully functional bass guitar, but it's really small scale, made for kids. In fact, I think the name of the company is Kids Guitars or something like that. And she messes around with that, but she's much more interested in the cello. And I have a drum set. You can't see it back behind the wall over here. And she loves playing drums, and that's the instrument that she's actually most proficient at.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, we jokingly call her Dawn Henley instead of because she sings and plays. I'll show her a beat, and she'll sit back there, and she will make up her own lyrics, melodies, the whole thing. And then I grab a bass or a guitar and I play along with her. I kind of fashion a song around what she's doing. And we've made up songs that way. And she can sit and keep a beat totally and sing and play. It's so cool to watch her do that.
Have you ever thought of doing like a kids album?
Yeah, I have. I actually have. Now that we've written these couple of songs, I'm going, this would be perfect for a kids album. And I homeschool her also. So part of her school, part of the curriculum is a music class.
Yeah.
So there's a keyboard right here that you can't see, but we do keyboard lessons here also during the day. So she's getting proficient at that.
That's cool.
And I have no idea where it's going to go. I'm certainly not pushing her into it. I want it to stay fun.
Yeah.
I want it to be something that she wants to do rather than feels like she has to. But she's really, really enjoying it right now, and I love that I get to spend this time with her, and be part of that part of development with her.
That's good stuff. And it's crazy that I never thought about it, when you were talking about earlier with just doing your bass stuff from your studio and just rapping it in and all. Pretty much you do all that stuff in the studio anyways. Whoever does the vocals does the vocals. And correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of times a lot of bands don't even play together inside the studio. Someone goes in, does their vocals, then bassist play bass, drummer does the drums. So really that's kind of like where the music industry can head, is that you have a studio, okay, let me do this here, let me do this here, you get it to someone, they put it all together, and boom, there you go. And no one ever knows that that's how it was put together.
Exactly. That's been happening for a long time. I mean, it actually goes back to the 70s, believe it or not. Back when studios consisted of these giant tape machines, it wasn't ideal. It was totally not cost effective and extremely non-practical. But in worst case scenarios, a band could take the master tapes, these giant spools of tape, and they would mail them from New York to LA. The guy in LA would put his parts on, mail the tapes back. It's costing hundreds of dollars to do that. But now, literally, I've played on records with people who are all over the world. I did one with a gal from Croatia, and her engineer was in Munich. So I'm FTPing the files up to Munich. He sends them to Croatia for her to put the vocals on, goes back to Munich. I mean, back and forth. And then, 4 months later, you get an email and there's the song in it. And that's so much of it happens that way. Now, on the other side of that, there's an album that just came out that I played on, where we did do it the old fashioned way. We went into all the musicians went into the studio. We did it at Sheffield up in Phoenix, Maryland, which is a total state of the art, great studio. Yeah. And we were all there. It's a big enough room that we could all space out, and it was COVID compliant. We were all safe and not masked and all that. And but it's we're doing it the old-fashioned way, where it's the musicians interacting together and doing that. But truthfully, we could have just as easily have done that from our home studios, because we all walked in there having our parts completely worked out in advance.
That's
so. So what do you gain from doing it in the studio? What you gain is the fun. You gain the camaraderie, hanging out with your buddies, doing a record, talking, all that. So
a lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of great albums that have been made that way.
I
And
see.
they-
I
and
never
they-
knew
and
that.
they- and
That's
they-
the first I've ever
And they could
heard.
only
Yeah.
keep it because if you listen to the last Alice in Chains album with Lane Staley,
Yeah.
he did all his parts on his own because he has drug problems really bad at the time.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting along with Jerry Cantrell, so they actually made that album that way.
Yeah.
Same thing with Pantera, Great Southern Trendkill. There's a lot of albums people don't realize that were made that way, and that's the only way they could have been made that way because
Oh,
the
yeah.
band members weren't getting along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and my thing is I was going to say this, there's probably a lot of bands where some guys don't get along, and that's just a very easy solution.
That's what I'm
Like
just saying,
when
yeah.
a tour comes up, that's a whole different story, a whole
Yeah.
nother animal. Like you need to deal with it because you're on tour. But really, like with making an album, like for example, I always go back one of the bands, 3 Days Grace. I don't know, the stuff that happened with them and Adam leaving 3 Days Grace. I feel like 3 Days Grace has never been 3 Days Grace after Adam left. But it's the kind of thing that at least for albums, it's like you guys could have at least have found a workaround
Yeah.
and did something like this and made it happen, because really I don't think Adam hasn't really, I don't think he's been able to grab the level that he was at for 3 Days Grace.
No.
And I don't think 3 Days Grace has
No.
found a level
Well,
since Adam left.
Anytime you
So,
lose your lead singer, it's
Yeah,
hard. I mean,
yeah,
not everybody can be
so-
AC/DC.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what you're seeing is the only bands who are still kind of doing it together in the studio are bands who either have their own studio like Metallica, or bands that just have a huge budget and they can go rent out a studio for a month and write and record the whole album and just basically encamp there for a long time. Godsmack, same thing. I mean, they have their own studio, but everybody else, you can have a total state-of-the-art production in your house.
Yeah.
So if you know what the songs are going to be, you know how it's going to work out. You're not writing the songs in the studio. It just kind of makes sense to do it that way.
Yeah, I remember like there were a lot of bands. Their studios would be like a storage unit or
Yeah.
a garage, or wherever they could just play. Like way back in the day, like I know, I know. What was it? Metallica. They actually had a album, wasn't it called a Garage Inc. or something
Garage
like
Inc.,
that?
yeah.
Garage Days Revisited. Yeah.
To play in the
Yeah,
garage.
yeah, and that's the thing. So, now people, it's crazy that you brought it up. People have studios in their houses, or Metallica has the money to rent like a huge studio that it's evolved so much from then to now, from point A to point B, that you could sit there and as soon as you're done with us, be like, okay, let me record some stuff. Have you ever recorded anything like that you just kind of generally recorded on your own and you were like, man, this might be good in a song, and then
Totally.
turn around and use it in a song?
Totally. Yeah. I've got an archive of stuff that is huge, and it's, now everything's digital, which is great. And on your iPhone, you have GarageBand is basically a recording studio for $4.
Really?
If you don't have it, if you don't have an iPhone and if you record, you make beats, whatever it is you do, it's a $4 app on your thing. It's GarageBand. You can overdub. You can do it. I've had students walk in. Most of my students are adults, but occasionally I'll have some kid students, and they'll show up and they'll say, "Hey, check out this thing. I want to show you what I play." And they'll play the song on the phone, and it sounds totally slamming. And I'll go, "Wow, that's great, man. Where'd you do that record?" And they look at me like, "I did it here." "What do you mean? Where did I do it?" Because to them, that's what they know. They know that you either do it on your phone or maybe your dad's iPad, but you're not going to go into a studio,
Yeah.
And they're getting these really pro sounding results just using the technology that is available to everybody. It's amazing.
I tell people a lot, like with iPhones or just cell phones in general. Like I tell my wife, I'm like, we don't have, like, she'll be like, I want to buy a digital camera. Why?
Right.
Why do you want to buy a digital camera? We have one on our phone. Like for example, I saw technology that once COVID's over, if I want to do an on-site interview with the stuff, you can get like actual stuff to do an interview for your phone. You plug it into the bottom, and it's kind of like a microphone.
Oh yeah.
To do that kind of stuff. And I heard, what is it? The GoPro. The GoPro, you can link to your, I want to get one for when we do our Zoom stuff, and also when we do in person, but you can link it to your computer, and it can be your Zoom camera, just
Right.
off a Bluetooth frequency through that. I'm like, man, that's insane.
Yeah.
That now you have so much wireless stuff. It's so easy. Meanwhile, back in the day, you had all these wires you had to tape to the floor, and you're like, oh, don't walk this way.
Yeah. Well, and you know that now bands are rehearsing remotely, right?
Yeah.
Bands don't even have to be in the same room. Do you know about Jam Kazam?
No,
So Jam Kazam is this platform, right? That you can totally rehearse. Because like when we're talking right now on Zoom, there's latency. If you use Skype or FaceTime, there's latency. Like if you were playing drums and I was going to play bass along with you, there's just enough latency that it's not going to sync up. It's not going to work. So Jam Kazam, and there's a couple other companies, but Jam Kazam is kind of at the forefront. They figured out a technology that eliminates the latency on this so that if I'm at my house here playing bass and you're playing whatever, and we're both plugged into our audio interfaces to get everything into the computer, and then using the Jam Kazam software, it eliminates the latency. We can see each other via the webcam. We can hear each other. I can make my own mix. If it was all four of us in our individual houses, drums, bass, guitar, keys, let's say, we're all tied into a session together. And I can treat it just like I was in the studio and say, you know what, I want to hear a little bit more of his guitar. I want to hear less of his drums. I want all the vocals mixed together. And that's how bands are doing rehearsals nowadays.
That's good stuff.
You do not have to be in the same place anymore.
You really don't even have to leave your home. That's the best part about it. And the podcast, we did this as a TV show like 8, 9, 10 years ago. And, a lot of my friends are like, dude, bring it back as a podcast. Do it as a podcast. I'm like, well, TV show took so much of my time because the TV show, it's visual. You want to see. And Zoom and all this stuff wasn't big back then. So we always had to go out. We were always going to, strip club to interview the porn stars, or we were always going to, music shows to interview bands. And, you had to keep up on content for weekly so much that it got to be so much, we just ended up not doing it.
And
but
now we just do it in the
yeah,
basement.
now the podcast is like, well, shit, we can just do it in the basement, bring cool people on via Zoom, talk to them, and, boom, that's it. And the best part about Zoom is Zoom, when you record stuff, they not only give you the video stuff, but they also give you an audio file of the whole entire thing. So when I'm done with everything, I can just drop the audio form, boom, right in the Adobe Audition, cut and splice wherever I need to. If I need to bring volume up a little bit, make it sound like everybody's talking evenly, I can do that. But other than that, I don't have to do any other work. And that's the best part about it.
With the virtual rehearsals, it's probably going to feel weird for bands when they actually start playing live again. They'll be together.
Yeah. Well, I remember they did the show with Post Malone. I don't know if you saw it, Dave. There was a show that Post Malone did, and it was a virtual show, and he was playing Nirvana.
Yeah.
And he sounded so good. And I was like, man, if they ever wanted to do like a Nirvana thing, like some sort of weird Nirvana like live show, have him sing the vocals. Like that's crazy how good it was.
Well, he was good on that Ozzy song too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, real quick, Dave, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over the games real quick. We'll probably be going live in about 2 minutes or so, 2-3 minutes. The games, pretty much, we do 5-second rule. We start off with that. Pretty much, we'll say name 3 of something. You have 5 seconds to answer. If you can't get it, it'll bounce around between all of us. If none of us get it, then, it's just a dead round. Then we do a game called Incoherent. And the reason why I said incoherent is because the phrase is basically how you would see it if you were saying it drunk. And you need to figure out what the phrase is.
Okay.
But as you're saying it, listen to yourself, because as you say it fast and you start to sound it out, you can, kind of hear what it is. And then, of course, after that is Cards Against Humanity, because the segment's called Ode to Humanity. And I don't know if you've ever played that, but it can get to be very vulgar. Have you ever played Apples to Apples?
No.
Okay. Pretty much what we do is we have a face card. It's a black card that has, it'll be like, and there I was standing there without blank on my blank, and then we'll give you options. We'll be like, all right, well, now we have these 4 cards. You give us what you think is the best answer that answers this card. So we used to do more cards. We lowered it down to 4 because 4 is a lot easier to remember than doing, 6 or 8 different options. So
sure. Okay.
That'll be the game. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and wrap up our Happy Hour podcast pre-game show exclusively on Patreon. So make sure everybody you're watching us on Patreon. We have all kinds of different content up.
It's $3.
Only $3 a month. Get a little bit of extra stuff. Saw a little bit of Dave's studio, which is cool. So that just make sure tune in with that. Make sure you also go over to hhpod.com, buy some merchandise. Find all of our content over there. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this, and then we're going to be live once again on Facebook. So we'll go ahead. I'll just leave that up because I can just edit past that. Hit that.
That is one manly drinking apparatus you have there, brother.
Yeah. I just got it from this place called Grimfrost. They have all sorts of horns that you can drink from. They've got ones that are like 10 times bigger than this.
Wow.
That's what she
I
said.
I don't know why you would need that much, but if you drink that much, I mean, I think you have a bigger problem.
Well, how much what's the quantity that holds?
This one is only 1 pint.
Okay.
So it's just like a beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of beer, can I get another one?
Yeah. There you go.